Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I thought that we would make Texas sheet cake. And if you have never had this, you are in for a surprise. You've got to try it. It is chocolate cake, it's chocolate frosting, and it's really fast to make. And the chocolate frosting is something that you cook and then you just pour over the top of the cake, and it is so good. So anyhow, let's get started. And first we're going to start with our cooked ingredients. So we're going to add a cup of water and 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa and 1 cup of butter. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the stove and we're going to cook it. And while it's cooking, we're going to mix up our dry ingredients. All right, we'll see you over there. All right, all we're going to do is we're just going to let the butter melt, and the chocolate and water then will be mixed in with the butter, and we want it to just come to a boil. And this is going to be the chocolate then that we add to our flour and let's see here, sour cream and vanilla and that kind of stuff. But we'll see that here in just a second. All right, we're going to just let this sit here and get warm and let that butter melt and get it to bubbling. All right, we've got our dry ingredients. We have 3 cups of flour in the bowl, and we've put 3 cups of sugar. And now we're going to add just a teaspoon of baking soda and half of a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to get that mixed in here. And then we're going to add 2 eggs and half a cup of sour cream. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And if it spills over the sides, that's all that more flavor. All right, let's get all that incorporated here. And it's going to be stiff at first because we have our chocolate mixture that we're going to add, and that's going to help us to get the consistency of a cake mix. All right, I can hear our chocolate and butter and water mixture bubbling. Let's go check on it. All right. It is getting warmed up. Still have a little ways to go with that butter. I wanted to check on it and see how it was doing. Also, I do have the oven preheating to 350, because that's what we're going to bake our cake at. And we're going to bake our cake in a jelly roll pan. So it's actually going to be kind of the height of brownies. It's not like a 9 by 13 with, you know, where the cake's a couple of inches, and certainly not a layer cake. It's kind of a, but it's super good, like I said earlier. All right. We're just going to continue to cook this until it bubbles. All right, it is bubbling. And smells delicious. You can't beat the smell of melted butter and then chocolate added to that. All right, there it goes. Okay, well, let's turn that off and let's take it back over to the dry mix and add it in. All right, we've got that all mixed up. Let's add our chocolate. Doesn't that look good? Okay. So we're just going to mix this till it's incorporated. And the eggs were mixed well with the butter and the sugar and the flour. So when we added our hot ingredients, it wasn't going to cook the eggs. I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but you add warm eggs to something, or actually you add something warm to the eggs, and it starts cooking, and you end up with scrambled eggs. Get this stirred until it's smooth. Alright, that looks perfect, and everything's well incorporated. Let's get it poured into our pan and get it baking. Just going to use our jelly roll pan here. Make sure you spray it real good because you want this to come out and not stick. And get the edges also. There we go. And we'll just smooth this out till it's evenly distributed through the pan. Kind of does all that on its own. This is just like the easiest dessert cake ever. Alright, it is ready for the oven. Alright, this is ready for the oven, and we are just going to bake it for 15 to 20 minutes at 350, and we'll check back in with you then. Alright, we've got our cake in the oven, and it's got about 11 minutes it set on the timer, so let's go ahead and get our frosting started. What we're going to do is we're going to boil our frosting, and it's a chocolate frosting, and then once it's done and the cake is done, we're just going to pour the frosting over the top of the cake, and it will spread evenly and very easily. And then we'll just wait 10 minutes and it'll be ready to cut and taste. All right, let's get going on the frosting. So let's start with the butter. So we've got a half cup of butter, and just remember as we're putting things in, this is for a jelly roll sized pan. So yes, there's 1.5 cups of butter total, but you're just going to be eating a little piece, kind of like the size of a brownie. So you're not going to be eating a 2.5 cubes or 3 cubes of butter. All right, this is 3.5 cups of powdered sugar. And we've got 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa and 6 tablespoons of milk. We're just going to put it all in there. And we're going to take it over to the stove then and get it cooking. And we're going to leave it on the stove until it boils, because we do want it to boil. All right, let's go over there. Now this recipe that I'm making is Texas sheet cake, but there's also a Mississippi mud cake. I believe they're very similar. The Mississippi mud has some marshmallow cream in it. I think between the cake layer and the chocolate frosting layer. So don't get those two mixed up. This one is so much simpler to make. And oh, so good. Alright, it's starting to boil around the edges. Butter's not quite all the way melted, but almost. Alright, it looks like it's just about done. You do want it to boil because that will help the frosting to set up much easier. Oh, that looks fantastic. All right, and we have just less than a minute left on our cake, and then we'll check it for, make sure it's done. All right, our cake is completed, and it took 17 minutes, no, 17? No, it took 22 minutes to bake. All right, we're just gonna pour our frosting over the top here. Some of it started to kind of cool down, so get that off there. Oh my goodness, that looks good. The frosting does soak in a little bit, which really makes the cake very moist. It's soaking in and making bubbles, kind of like a poke cake. All right, we're gonna let this sit for 10 minutes and it'll be ready to cut. All right, I think that we are ready to cut into this. When we poured the frosting on, it was shiny, and as it dries, it gets dull, and that's how you also know that it's ready. But all right, let's cut into this. And it cuts so easy. Look at that. Doesn't that just look delicious? And you can see where the frosting soaks into the cake itself. Should we take a bite and see what we think? That is so good. It's almost fudgy. You're gonna love it. I hope that you have a chance to make it. And if you do, please let me know about that. And I will put the recipe in the description box below. Thank you so much.